Hi, my name is Dawn Montefusco, and this is Write Your True Story, how to use your story to grow your business, inspire millions, and leave a legacy. And today we have a very special person, someone that I've just met online recently, and in the small time that I've known her, she has significantly changed the way I look at myself and my business. Her name is Heather Dominick. And Heather Dominick is a former high school drama teacher who collaborated with none other than Bette Midler. She's a graduate of NYU, where she received her first coach training. She has appeared on Lifetime television and has been published in numerous books, including Stepping Stones to Success alongside Deepak Chopra. She's an exceptional facilitator and teacher, and Heather is known for creating a safe, sacred community for true transformation, whether she's teaching a business miracles class, delivering training online or in person, or mentoring members of her business miracles community in her various mentoring programs. She has helped thousands of HSEs release lifelong limiting beliefs, overcome fears, and learn how to build their business in a way that actually feels so good that they can't help but create solid, sustainable, high-level financial success. Heather is also the founder and leader of the Highly Sensitive Entrepreneur Movement. Hi, Heather.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you. So in your own words, tell us what you do and any projects you're working on.
Sure thing. So again, I am founder and leader of the Highly Sensitive Entrepreneur Movement. And basically what that means is I discovered for myself that about 8 years ago that I was highly sensitive. And that was during a time where I had really hit a very dark night of the soul in my business. And I had, I guess in short, I could say gotten really caught up in a lot of the rah-rah, push-push of the coaching industry. I had created a significant financial mark. I had crossed the seven-figure mark for the first time at that time, and I was absolutely miserable. I was completely just overexhausted. I was overwhelmed. And I always really like to emphasize when I'm sharing this that my energetic state at the time really had nothing to do with the amount of income that I had generated in my business, but it had everything to do with the way that I had gone about it. And so at that time, I just really decided to pull back from everything except continuing to just pour my love into the clients that I was working with, and really went into a space of deep self-inquiry, deep self-reflection, and discovered that I was highly sensitive. And through that discovery, and the discovery of Dr. Elaine Aron and her work, who's the founding researcher of the highly sensitive person, I really came to understand that, first of all, there's 20% of us who are born into the world highly sensitive. So I always like to say that it's not something that your parents did to you. You didn't catch it on the playground, and it's not because of that purple drink that you had at that awesome college party. It's literally just how you were born into the world. And once I really came to understand that, and really understood to understand what it means, which basically in very simplistic terms is, for those of us who are highly sensitive, our nervous system is wired differently than for someone who is not. And what that means is basically that we process stimulation very, very differently. So something that might not be stimulating at all, or maybe slightly stimulating to someone who's not highly sensitive, will really, really bowl over a person who is highly sensitive. And that might just mean from an environment stimulation, like maybe you can imagine, say, a rock concert, or it could just be an emotional stimulation, how we feel when we're around other people. And so as I went further and further into that research, as well as my own self-discovery, I thought, wow, well, you know what? This really makes a major difference in terms of how I approach my business in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, working with other entrepreneurial women at the time. And I thought, you know what? Let me just see what happens when I take this assessment that I took into this group of women. I was working in person with a group of women, of about 25 of them at the time. I had them take the assessment, and every single woman in the room was highly sensitive.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And that didn't surprise me so much, because a foundational principle that I've been teaching for a very long time is that your ideal client is a version of you.
Yes.
What didn't really surprise me was how much every single woman in that room did not want to be highly sensitive.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they really saw it as a weakness and as a really negative label. And so that just really took me to a whole nother level. And I thought something is definitely going on here. And so I really dove into just really researching and discovering what it means and what it takes to be able to be self-employed successfully as a person who's highly sensitive. And so that's just led me to where I am today. In terms of what projects that I'm working on right now, well, as part of my mentoring programs, I always offer 2 in-person training retreats each year, one in the spring and one in the fall. I always teach new information at these training retreats, and I always am looking to be able to provide the teaching and the training that's most needed by the community at the time.
Oh,
So I am gearing up for our next training retreat and diving into that research and study, which is all about how to shift out of overwhelm and overprotection and over responsibility, which are 3 of the primary HSE shadows that I refer to, and how to shift from those shadows into peaceful productivity and prosperity. So I'm knee deep in putting that curriculum and content together, and really, really enjoying it.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for those that, if they miss the acronym, HSE is highly sensitive entrepreneur, which I love, because now it's like, it's like a positive thing. It's not so daunting.
Yeah,
So,
it really is a positive thing. It really, truly is. You just have to learn how to really be able to work with your highly sensitive nature and traits in a very different way than most likely you've worked with them up until now.
yes, yes. I'll just say I did take your free quiz, and I'm a highly uber sensitive entrepreneur. And everyone should take it. Go to her website. It's on this page. It was amazing. It was almost eerie how I felt like, oh, I had all this baggage that almost instantly came off. So that was fabulous. I love how you're already doing it. You're already using story and being authentic and vulnerable as a strength in attracting your clients. So the question that I have, which is obvious, but I'd like you to talk about it a little bit, is how has this process of being authentic and vulnerable and leading with your story helped you connect with your tribe? How, like attracted it,
Yes, absolutely. Well, one of the concepts that I teach in my mentoring programs is what I refer to as V and V energy, which stands for visibility and vulnerability, and even deeper, the willingness to be seen for who you really are. And this is a massive area of difficulty for those of us who are highly sensitive. And the reason why is because for most of us, being highly sensitive and most likely being unaware that we were highly sensitive, we kind of picked up somewhere along the line that we were different. And we picked up also along those lines that was not okay. And that being different meant that there was something wrong with us. So most of us really then went into what I now refer to as the HSE coping mechanisms to try to protect ourselves from being found out
Yeah.
that we are actually different. And just as a quick note, those coping mechanisms are either you tend towards the coping mechanism of pushing, which means that you will get done what the other 80% can get done, but it will come at a high cost for you. And that's definitely where I was. I am absolutely a recovering pusher. Or you tend towards the coping mechanism of hiding, which is that you'll find every way to really try not to be seen, to not really stand out, and to not have any reason for anyone to be able to figure out that actually the way that you do things, the way that you think about things, the way that you approach things is different than the other 80%. Or your coping mechanism is you're a combo platter, which means that you flip-flop back and forth between the two. And I always say that is absolutely the highly sensitive entrepreneur definition of insanity.
Yeah.
It's a difficult place to be.
When you say flip back and forth, is it from hiding to exposure to hiding, and
pushing to hiding, pushing to hiding?
Gotcha. Yeah, I gotcha. Totally.
Yeah, on that seesaw. So then, therefore, we must learn as highly sensitive entrepreneurs how to experience a true sense of safety and being able to be seen. And as part of being seen, to experience the power of vulnerability rather than the threat of vulnerability. So I absolutely have been engaging in that core practice for myself for years, obviously, or hopefully obviously, if it's something that... and that really involves, first of all, the willingness to do the own inner work, and then willingness to take that inner work out into the world step by step. And so it is that process that I have found to be, first of all, most healing for myself, and then also to really be able to most powerfully support me in connecting with other highly sensitives who really desire to be successfully self-employed, but in a way that doesn't, mean that they have to sacrifice who they are.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. So I'm guessing that through that process, there were times where you obviously had doubts or fears of sharing. Maybe not. I mean, did you feel a little bit like, am I going to really put myself on a platter and tell everyone I'm sensitive?
Right. Oh my gosh, I love it. On a platter, like the worst thing ever.
But it's a good thing. That's the irony, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting because, in all honesty, as I was sharing earlier, I was at such a dark place when I really came to understand that I was highly sensitive. It was kind of a make or break moment, right? It was a real crossroads, and I wasn't willing to go down the road that I had been traveling up until that point, which, as part of pushing in my business, in all honesty, had also been a lot of posturing, right? Because that's what I had, brought with me into my business just from, again, my own unconscious experience of coping with being highly sensitive. But also that's a lot of what was really being, pushed, I guess is maybe a word, in the industry at that time, right? It was all about like the flash, right? And the glam and the big production at an in-person event, or the flashy website. And so those two together were really just, destructive combination for myself. And I was so clear that I wasn't willing to do that anymore. Just absolutely not. I was either like, I've got to be in this fully as myself, or I'm out. And so it was kind of like really that kind of dramatic moment. So I didn't necessarily have so much of the, ooh, I'm going to put myself on a platter. I was kind of more just like, F it, because like, this is all we got. It's like, we really go for real here, or we just don't go at all. So, that's what it was.
That's awesome. Really, truly. What advice maybe would you have for someone who is highly sensitive, a highly sensitive entrepreneur that doesn't have trouble talking about their story, maybe in speaking, maybe in classes, but when it comes to putting it on a website, or it comes to putting it in a book, or it comes to putting it somewhere where it's almost, out there, as I've heard some people say, but they're not getting the clients they want. So using their story to lead in written materials so more people can see it. Is there any advice you would give to the highly sensitive entrepreneur on maybe baby steps or what the advantages are? How do they navigate that exposure?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, so much of my work is really about what I refer to as the inner and outer approach, and that it really does require both for those of us who are highly sensitive. And the mistake that so many HSEs make, and I definitely, again, made for myself, is trying to fool themselves into believing that if I just do the outer, then I won't really have to face or acknowledge the inner. I'll just follow this formula that this person's teaching. I'll just, go about using this system for the next 30 days, and then I'll be able to go out there. I'll be able to be on the internet. I'll be able to be seen. No one will have to know who I really am behind it, but the formula and the system will work because that's what the marketing says. And then I'll just be able to do it, and it'll just be able to work, and my life will be fragmented, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that just does not work. And so if you are like sharing your story maybe with, one-on-one clients or in small groups, as you said, but you feel the fear of putting it out there online, all I can say is that if you are being anyone besides who you genuinely are online, you're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to waste a lot of money. And you're going to be extremely disappointed that that formula and that system that supposedly is working for everybody else doesn't work for you.
Yes.
So then from there, it comes back to the inner work, right? One of the best things I would say most important aspects of really being able to be empowered as a person who's highly sensitive, and definitely as a person who is highly sensitive and self-employed, is to really be willing to know yourself.
Yeah.
And then to be willing to accept yourself.
Yes.
And then from that place to be willing to share yourself. Because if you're holding back on that sharing, then you're actually not fulfilling the calling that you have been brought here to answer. Because for those of us who are highly sensitive, we are, as Dr. Elaine Aron refers to, we have been brought here to be the royal advisors to our entire global society and culture. And that is to bring balance to the other 80% who are the warrior kings and queens. So if you have a highly sensitive who's a royal advisor trying to go out there on the internet and being a royal, being a warrior king or queen, it's kind of like, what was that story when we were growing up? Like, oh, the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And you will absolutely be seen for being inauthentic, and it will create so much difficulty and so much pain for yourself. So dial it back, know who you are, be willing to claim who you are, and then be willing to share who you are.
That's amazing. Oh, that's so great to hear. It taps into all the beginning mistakes I made in terms of inauthenticity and losing my mind.
Oh yeah, that.
And then like once I was coached into being more authentically me and realizing that was okay, incrementally, the ease. I mean, yes. It's almost, and I've been working with A Course in Miracles as well, and I'm loving, by the way, that you're combining this, because it's just such a huge gift for people to realize both of those things. And I'll leave it a mystery for those who will find it and find out. Another question. I love your podcast. It's a recent podcast. I'll read this question I wrote about resilience. You said being a highly sensitive entrepreneur doesn't mean you can't be successful in your business. It only means you must go about it in a different way.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about why it's important to learn different ways to accomplish goals as HSE?
Yes, absolutely. It is forever imperative. So first of all, again, excuse me, as I've been sharing, we are wired differently. So we approach the world differently and we receive the world differently.
Mm.
So it only makes sense that you also approach your business differently, and then therefore open yourself to receive from your business differently. Again, if you're trying to go about being in business in the same way that the other 80% goes about being in business, it's really going to be like trying to, fit a square peg into a round hole for you. So even though you said leave it a mystery, I will bring in the course right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll talk about why, like, my business is a course in business miracles who serves highly sensitive entrepreneurs. And the real short answer is that according to A Course in Miracles, which is a psychological and spiritual teaching and curriculum, is that according to that curriculum, the definition of a miracle is a shift in perception.
That's right.
And that is really, truly what's needed for a highly sensitive to be able to be successfully self-employed. You need to be willing to have a shift in perception. First of all, that you see yourself differently rather than yourself as weaker or lesser than, as I shared from that first group of 25 that I brought the concept to. You can see yourself as a person who has incredibly gifted strengths that the other 80% doesn't have, that when those strengths are really used productively, you okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. That when those strengths are really used productively, they're actually superpowers that are available to serve and support you. And then you're willing to see your business differently. And then you're willing to see how you go about your business differently.
Yes.
And really, truly, it's the only way that you'll actually be able to not feel like your business has been brought to you to be a torture chamber. But instead is this vehicle for you to again be able to simultaneously be of service to others while you also heal and empower yourself. It's one of the things that I always say is that for those of us who are HSEs, our business is our portal, right? Everyone has their portal that's brought to them.
I like that. I like it a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
It's going to bring you growth. It's going to bring you to another level. For some people, it's alcoholism. For some people, it's overeating. For some people, it's overworking. For some people, it's just, being with their kids. For some people, it's being a creative. For those of us who are highly sensitive, who are called to be self-employed, it is our business.
Yes.
That is where our best healing is going to happen, and it's where our best service is going to be provided.
Wow, you just gave me chills. Yeah, that was nice. That really felt great. I was going to ask the question on why you think HSEs are so hard on themselves, but I think that you've kind of answered that question in terms of the nervous system, in terms of the 20%, in terms of realizing this is who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes back to comparison.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's comparing ourselves to the other 80% and being like, why can't I do that? Why can't I do that in the way that that person does it?
Yes.
And that turns into story, right? The unproductive type of story, which is that there's something wrong with me,
Totally.
right? That I'll never be able to measure up. And again, I have to push or hide to keep other people from knowing it. And it just turns into this whole cycle, which actually is one of the concepts that I teach, which is the HSE coping cycle. That's why we're so hard on ourselves. But the minute you dial back and you're able to disconnect from that unhelpful habit of comparison, everything changes and the world opens up. But you have to be, again, you got to be willing to see it differently. You've got to be willing to ask for a miracle.
Yeah. Oh. So when it comes to connecting to clients, here's a question I'm really into. Do you think HSCs would have the advantage so because we're highly sensitive, when we share, when we feel that our feelings that go back and forth with attracting and connecting with our clients, in some ways we have the advantage of sharing who we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always say that we as highly sensitives are absolutely wired to be excellent networkers, first of all, and have really powerful selling conversations if you're willing to go about it differently. So if we just look at the selling conversation, so first of all, I've designed and developed an entirely different way of approaching the selling conversation in a way that's matched and designed for the highly sensitive. So when selling doesn't work for those of us who are highly sensitive. It's when it's being taught in the way that the 80% teaches it, which is about fear, which is about lack, which is about scarcity, which is about pressure, and which is about really pushing a person to make a decision on a pressure point. You put that together with a highly sensitive and it's totally going to crash. No way is a highly sensitive going to be able to operate in a selling conversation from that 80% perspective. However, if you approach a selling conversation in a way that utilizes your HSE strengths, such as the HSE strength of empathy, the HSE strength of intuition, the HSE strength of being able to be a deep listener, the strength of being a deep feeler, and the strength of being a deep thinker. You put all of those together and you put it together into a process, then suddenly you are in a golden place to speak to prospects, to really make a deep connection with them, and to support them in really consciously being able to make a decision to go from where they are to engaging in your service so that their life and experience will change. I mean, literally, you are like made for this.
That's awesome.
But the 80% script isn't going to work for you.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. Wow. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for this. This really I think will help so much of the audience that I think I attract, you know, and you have a free gift.
Yes. It's the quiz that you spoke about earlier. So what I would say is, you know, as you've been listening, if you're starting to think, I don't know, this really might be me, I would definitely recommend that you take the HSE free quiz. And it's a quiz that I've designed and developed as an expansion on Dr. Elaine Aron's work. And once you take the quiz, you will receive your results and you will be shown, first of all, if you are highly sensitive or not. And if you are you somewhat highly sensitive as an entrepreneur, or are you super highly sensitive, or are you like me, and now I understand, also like Dawn, are you super uber highly sensitive? And depending on where you fall, you'll receive a free success guide after you take the quiz that will then show you how to begin to work with this aspect of your nature, whether somewhat super or super uber, so you can really understand how to begin to go about things in your business differently.
Yes, and it is a great quiz. It's not just, you know, like you know, 5 questions on a PDF. Like, it really is extensive, and and then you get this amazing packet of information. You know, I the old-fashioned way, I printed it out because I'm carrying it around with me.
Good. That's very highly sensitive of you, by the way, to print it out.
I love that. And I also want to say, I love your ability to emote joy. Like, there's a joy about you that you know, you don't, you know, so this is an okay place, you know, to, you know, you do create a very safe feeling in all your work and what you do. So thank you for sharing your true story, you know, which is, you know, when I got on your about page, you lead with it, you know, and people can go and read it. And I love how that immediately created a sense of trust, and you're just great. You're a fantastic woman.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you. I've loved connecting with you. Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody, and have a great day. And I hope to connect with you someday soon, Heather.
Definitely.
Bye.
Bye.